It's got it listed as a coffee soda.
Mark?
Yes?
So, like, tell me when you want to call me into the conversation, because I'm still doing the food and all that, yeah?
Right, okay. Well, I just clicked start streaming, but it's not coming through YouTube unless, is there a delay, is there?
I just got a notification.
That it started?
Uh-huh.
Right, okay. That's not gone very smooth then, has it?
That's all right. That's all right. No worries, man. Take your time. But I will say that it had the title of the show as a coffee soda. So I don't know. Did you title the show?
I'm sure I did. Yes, one bourbon, one scotch.
Okay.
Well, yeah. It's up on the screen as one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. And I did communicate with Ali through it as well. So I don't know what happened to the music. Maybe it's streaming somewhere else. Is it streaming on another? It's not gone to the. Ah, right. It didn't stream to what we were expecting. It's not gone to the. Right. It didn't stream to what we were expecting. It's gone onto a new stream. So we'll just. That was a disaster, folks.
All right.
Right, but Ali.
It's not a disaster. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. Yes, we're live. Yeah, it didn't go to the one where people were waiting. It's just gone to a fresh one.
That's funny. So you didn't play the intro music? We should do that because it's going to be classic.
Hopefully, I did, but here we go. We've got SC Montreal in the chat. Hello, SC Montreal. Let's try again.
Yeah, shout out AC Montreal. And of course Travis. Montreal.
Shout out to Ali B. We got feedback on Open Watch page.
Yeah, no, it's hang on.
It's Mark.
It's me, isn't it? Shut up.
It's very unprofessional, Travis. I think you should get a new producer or something.
Now listen here, pal. All right. If anybody wants to join us, we sent out a link in Skype if you're part of our Skype group. Put it in the chat if you want to join us, and we'll bring you in. Okay, so.
Hey, 1 sec, Mark.
Okay.
Mark, 1 sec. I'm going to hang up and I'm going to join on my tablet because I've only got 40% of my phone. I answered with my phone and I'll join back on my tablet. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm here. So we are live. Okay.
Yeah, we're live. Yes.
All right. Good.
Nora's making the dinner, so we'll look forward to that.
Yeah. Spaghetti, I suppose. That's what she said.
Yeah.
Please make sure the noodles are al dente, Nora.
Hi, they are al dente, but they are not. It isn't spaghetti. Actually, it's fusilli amatriciana.
Oh wow! So what is? Because earlier you said spaghetti. So what's what you just said?
I just wanted to generalize because I was taken aback by the fact you were putting me on live.
So what is the dish? What kind of a Italian?
It's fusilli with the sauce is called amatriciana. Amatriciana is from a place called Amatricia, I think, near Rome.
Okay, what's the base for the sauce? Is it tomato or is it wine or?
You have to you saute the onions until they're kind of golden, and then you put in pancetta, and then you put in spices and hot chili peppers from Calabria. Does that whet your appetite? And then you cover it with it's tomato sauce.
Yeah. And so then what kind of a noodle was it?
I'm using fusilli, the little spirals, yeah.
Oh, they're spirals, okay. All right.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my dinner. I'll get on mute again.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Let's talk
so
about the pros and cons of this lockdown that we're all in. We're into day 3 of lockdown, and I'm actually quite enjoying it. The kids aren't at school, so we're doing homeschool. We're doing arts and craft, a bit of maths, and a drive out in the country. So up to now, despite other people who are obviously struggling, we're quite enjoying it.
Right. Well, I think that anybody who isn't driven by their pocketbook, isn't driven by their paychecks and having to be a double income family, I would be very surprised if they wouldn't enjoy having this kind of home time with their own family members. Like you said, you've enjoyed it. I think that if we simply restructured a lot of our lives, I mean, that's all our lives are, right? Our lives are structured by something. It just depends on what that structure is. And if you can structure, like, somebody might say, well, I can't imagine being at home with my kids all day long. Okay, well, give yourself some structure. Give yourself a regimen. Make a checklist. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. This is the time. You could be done with school in 2 hours.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
The problem is that we're not an agrarian society anymore, so we don't have a farm to go out and work. But if you had shit to do all day long on your farm, you wouldn't be bored.
You mentioned to me earlier on, Travis, a negative side to it. Do you want to share that, or is that private?
Well, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but
Alan B wants to come in. Let him in. The music's come through.
One scotch, one bourbon, I want beer. I want scotch, one bourbon, one beer.
Am I back?
Hey, Mr. Bartender, listen here.
Sorry, folks. Is that Alan? Are you with us again?
Yeah, that's me. Yep.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, but I think we lost Nora though. It was weird because I felt like I had to accept the call too, and I think we lost Nora.
No. Nora's with me anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So, I don't know if anybody knows. I think I've said certain things at different times, but I have been divorced for 2 years, so all of my children live with my ex-wife, and so my 3 oldest boys are all grown, and the 2 youngest come over on the weekends. And this last weekend, my ex said that she wasn't going to let them come over because I wasn't taking the virus seriously. And so this week I said, okay, look, what do I need to do this week to make sure that you're happy with, my taking this virus seriously? And so, it's basically just being sanitary, like wiping down handles and whatnot. So I've got Clorox wipes in my truck with me and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, crazy. This whole thing, it's absolutely insane. One of the videos that I watched and put on my Facebook channel, I'll try to remember to do it right now too after I stop talking, put it in the chat. But if you look at the statistics, and the death rate and the recovery rate and everything that goes into this whole thing, it's like if someone had a weak immunity system, or they were very toxic, their bodies were just, there was something in their microbial life that they weren't aware of, and they got shot. If they were healthy, they would have recovered from the shot. The shot wasn't fatal, right? But they died.
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Travis, can you hear us? This is a disaster, isn't it?
Well, how did this calls drop? How did I drop off the call?
I don't know. No idea. No idea.
I can see his icon there.
Let's add him again. See Alan back. Is it? Alan's with us, isn't he? Sorry folks if you can hear us, we're having a problem here with Skype. Who's on hold here? Alan's on hold. Alan back, come on. Nora, are you still there, yeah? Nora's not even there.
Yeah, no, I am, sorry.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know, do you want to carry on talking, or?
Yeah, let's keep it going. So what's it like in Dublin at the moment with the coronavirus lockdown?
Yeah, corona fucking virus. Okay, so, we have a coronavirus situation, don't we? No, I just keep laughing. I have to laugh to keep my spirits up. People are going around this novel.
I've no idea what happened. It looks like...
Okay, so Travis is still in the call.
Yeah, it's like Allie and I got separated off from this call.
Yeah. Mark?
Yes, go ahead. What's it like in Dublin at the moment?
So, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, everything is sort of, like, since they started having these draconian type of measures supposedly announced by our non-Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, after he went to visit Trump. He came back, he did this big speech, and he said it's the calm before the storm, and he's not a very good orator, so everyone laughed at it. And anyway, everyone in Ireland people are quite polite to each other, and they just walk through the streets, and they just kind of do what they're told to do. They do what they're told to do, but at the bottom of it, you can see in their eyes, and you can see when people are talking to each other that we all think it's bullshit.
Okay.
Well, a good lot of us think it's bullshit, and then you have a certain sector of Irish society that are pure sheeple, and they just they go along and they no. They believe the government take on everything, and they just buy the mainstream narrative. Okay, so then they put up these, the main things that I saw happen were that they put up military tents on the Liffey River, and they put them up right under the building of JP Morgan, which I thought was kind of coincidental. And it was like a long string of military tents, and nobody knew what they were for. So people were going up to the military tents and asking the men around them, what are these for? And then so they'd try to answer you, and some would not want to talk to you. One guy said, it's for testing. He said this to me. Some people are cagey about talking about things. One guy looked like he was a journalist, and he didn't really warm to my asking him questions. But after I found out the name of the ship, we were asking about the name of the ship, then he started to be friendly again. So people are kind of like, they're still as friendly as they usually are, in a way, but they're guarded, and it takes a while for them to break out of it.
Are you still there? What is wrong with this thing?
So they filmed that ship and the tent, and but then there's nobody going into the tent. I went down the next day, and I think one lady actually went the big ship, the naval vessel that is there on the Keys. So there's that. There's that end of it, and they keep on ramping up the number of victims online. I guess like Shane Ranty will probably think I'm an auto hoaxer. I thought this was bullshit from the outset. And the main thing that kind of got my spidey sense up was that nobody was clear about the test. And I have done a lot of research into the HIV hoax, which was it was a hoax. They doctored the results of their research into retroviruses.
One bourbon, one beer.
That you could have a positive result, and then you could go down to another state and get a negative result. And also in Africa, they would have millions and millions of people being tested positive for the AIDS, which is a syndrome, what is it called? Acquired immuno something syndrome. But it was rather arbitrary, because if somebody had tuberculosis, and they'd screen them for other health problems, and then if they had those symptoms, then they would take the test for antibodies in the body against the retrovirus, and then they'd announce, "Oh, you have AIDS," and they might not have had any gay sex at all. This was Africa, so the whole diagnosis procedure for viruses is just it's indeterminate. It's not reliable. It's tricky. I think that they sometimes fudge the results for political reasons, or do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I do. I do.
Did you guys watch?
Go ahead.
So just to continue, I think what's going on is sort of like HIV part 2. They're going to have tests that test for these antibodies. I tried to figure out how the test works. Adam Meakin sent me a little insert for one of the tests, and it's quite complicated. I called the health service executive in Ireland, and I had the most ridiculous conversation for about an hour and a half with a health service, HSE we call it. It's not like it's not NHS. Sorry. It's not NHS here. It's HSE, but it's the same as the NHS. So I had this conversation with this man, and all I wanted to know, with a view to finding out how the test works, first, all I asked him was, what is the name of our test? What kind of test do we have here in Ireland? And for an hour and a half, he had no information for me. He was fumbling around. He couldn't find this information. He couldn't give me another number where I could call to find this information. It got very ridiculous. He went up to a nurse in the room where he was talking to me, and she couldn't give me any way to find out what the test was, what the name of the test was, and where they sent it off to, and who provided them with the test. They couldn't answer any of those questions. So I made that call, and I talked to him for a while, and I had no answer for an hour and a half. So basically, I'm quite suspicious of testing for viruses.
Oh, okay, it's a bit quite heavy, that is. Go ahead, Trevor. Travis.
Yeah, I was just going to say briefly that I thought that the Globebusters episode this Sunday was absolutely fantastic. So if no one has seen that yet, be sure you go check it out, and I'll scrounge up the other links to. They had a guest on. She's a naturopath, and she's got her degree in that field. And I thought she did a great job of talking about the nature of the state of affairs. But she also had two guys on. They're part of Space Busters. I don't remember what their names are, but on Space Busters on their channel, they had 3 episodes that they did, and they talked about viruses, and it was just really really interesting. The data that they give out, that if you think that viruses are alive and that you can catch them or that you can transmit them, you need to listen to those episodes, and I'll go look for them real quick.
Yeah, I agree. I thought she was very, very knowledgeable. At the beginning, I didn't know who she was, but she just kept going on and on. She's been into this, and she's gone very deep into this for so many years. I thought she was extremely knowledgeable, and she would back up what she said. At the beginning of when they started coming out with this claim that viruses aren't passed or like through air, but they're also saying they're not passed from surfaces, I was a bit skeptical, and I was thinking, no, this can't be, because I've been a teacher for many years, and the whole scenario when chickenpox comes around, everyone is afraid, and generally we just think of children sometimes as little petri dishes that we're in there at our own risk. We're going to get sicknesses from these children. So I always really believed in contagious diseases. But what they're saying, there's a lot of really good research, it seems, to back it up. I don't know how we're catching chickenpox in that case. Maybe it's the contact with the actual sores. I don't know. I'm just in the midst of trying to follow up on that research.
Right. So, I think it all goes back into the stuff that we've been told and taught about germs. But the way that I would say what I picked up from their episodes is that the virus is your body's reaction to an invading bacteria or germ. So it just depends on how your body is going to react to it. Somebody could be in that same classroom and not get chickenpox, but you do. Okay, so you didn't catch a virus. You did catch some foreign body that came into your system, and then your body's reaction to that is the virus. Your body creates a virus to attack and deal with that foreign entity, and it might express itself the way it does for you. But again,
yeah, exactly, and that's why they talk about viruses in terms of there being RNA instead of DNA, because they're not really living organisms, and most of them will be bacteriophages. Phage means eat, so they say they're eating the bacteria, but maybe it's just an effluence from the bacteria dealing with the invasive substance. And I was also thinking that maybe the things entering us when we think we catch, between like quotes, catch a disease, it could even be fungus and mold, and that we deal with that by creating these viruses in our tissues. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a particle that gets into the body that the body has to fight to get rid of, and that's where all your symptoms come. These figures that we're getting from Italy about so many thousands are dying. Do you doubt those figures?
Oh, Italy. Just recently, because of because we went down to do the Global tour in that van, and because there is a upcoming mud flood conference in Italy, I've had more contact with Italian flat earthers, and one of the main ones in one of the biggest groups on Facebook, Agostino Favari, has been calling me because he wants me to translate some of his videos, which I'm kind of doing slowly. Anyway, he thinks he's going for the alternative theories. Now, I thought when this all happened in Italy, I thought, oh, for sure, if that many people are dying and they're all like their parents and their grandparents, then it must be true, because Italy is so family oriented that they're not going to make a hoax or a lie about who's dying in Italy, right? So I was actually believing in the spread of the virus as they claimed in the beginning because of the high numbers in Italy. I kind of believe the Italian families in a way. But then I started talking to Agostino Favari and his other friend, the one who did the mud flood conference, and there I'm presently trying to translate one of their conversations, and they're both saying alternative explanations. They're looking at the alternative explanations of what a virus is, as well as these claims of 5G being, if not causative, but correlative to the outbreaks. They found an area between Padova, Milano, Lido, and just that area up in the north of Italy. And they both agree that that is what they would call a hotspot of where 5G was launched. And they're examining the difference of the cases within that little triangle and outside.
I'm not sold on the 5G yet, but I know there's a lot of people talking about it. Is there a definite correlation, or is there any sort of? Are we just cherry?
I don't think so. What I've heard that makes sense to me is not that 5G is a catalyst for it, but that there are similarities in the body's response to exposure to 5G that mimics the health issues that the coronavirus can produce. So a lot of the speculation is they've created this narrative for the coronavirus that produces respiratory issues that are similar to pneumonia if it gets that far, so that when they have 5G released and then you have those symptoms come up, it's not the coronavirus, it's the results of being exposed to 5G. So
so the 5G is said to stop the uptake of oxygen into the blood. You don't, your blood doesn't get aerated or oxygenated, right? So
right.
that mimics, that is similar to what they are saying, like the Chinese people were getting.
Right. But the thing that I saw that was different was the coughing that came along with this exposure to 5G was a dry cough. It was not a phlegmy cough, which is the opposite of a bronchial issue. If you've got a bronchial issue,
they say it's
pneumonia,
a dry cough, shortness of breath, headache, sore throat. Starts in the upper respiratory tract. No, doesn't it start in the lower? Lower respiratory tract.
I don't remember hearing about upper or lower, but just in terms of there were so many similarities between the symptoms of the virus, the body's response to the virus, and then also 5G, but there was also those significant differences. That is, that you've got a dry cough, but you still feel fatigued, you still feel achy. Everything has those similarities, but there's just
exactly. And also the fact that the 5G would lower your immunities, and then if they were able to, like, I kind of think that they do so much development of these diseases in laboratories that there is a big chance that they can develop a bioweapon, whether it be what they say it is, a virus or not. It is possible in China that they could have let out a bioweapon. Maybe it's not what they say it is, but if you had 5G lowering the immunity, that would further the damage, wouldn't it? Make it worse.
Ali, are you still with us? Can you give us any lowdown of what's happening in Denmark?
Yeah, I'm still here. In Denmark,
So what's changed in Denmark?
well, they've brought out a law that they can force vaccinate you when the vaccination comes out, and if you don't, you'll get fined, or a possibility you'll get sent to jail. You'll do time.
Wow.
Are you serious? Isn't that
Yeah.
unconstitutional at the very least?
Who cares about constitutions these days, man? Nobody does. It's the
But they
Danes
have.
we're talking about. They're very... Yeah, but the Danes are very lackadaisical. You know, they'll what shall I say? They'll criticise the government now and again, but if you start talking about, like issues and they're corrupt and stuff like that, they'll actually defend them. They get that cognitive dissonance kind of stuff. So
Yeah, they defend the government at all costs.
yeah, but they'll criticise them. They'll criticise their politicians, blah blah. But in the end up, they're tied to the state. They worship the state, and that's a fact.
And so, are you all on lockdown at the moment, Ali?
Well, Denmark's closed its borders to anybody that wants to go on holiday. But I can drive. I'm driving a truck, so I can drive all over Europe. And it's funny that, isn't it? It's really, it's scary. But yet, there's loads of truck drivers driving about the place, meeting up with people and stuff like that. So it's a load of bollocks.
One thing they said in Ireland, that they promised us that the supply chain would be preserved, that we would not run out of food and that. Did they say that to you?
But think about it. Yeah, but think about this, right? Who owns the who supplies the world with food? It's big corporations, isn't it? Of course they're going to keep the supply chain open, otherwise they won't get any money. They won't make any money. This is all to do, right? This is my opinion. There's load. I always look, when something happens, always look who's got to benefit, who's going to benefit from this. Now, my daughter, she doesn't go to school, but she's got internet classes. Right now, we know where that's going. They're going to stop kids going to school, and they're going to get them on the internet to get their lessons. This is just a beta test to test out the system. Same as money. They'll get people scared of touching money. That's why they say, "Oh, it's on surfaces," right? And what'll happen there is
have that happening now. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So they're going to do away with the cash system. There's a cashless society coming. That's just a fact now, and it's quite funny actually. People, they're saying, "Oh, we're going to give companies, we're going to support companies, we're going to pay 80% of wages." And all. Like the little companies are just going to fall by the wayside. There's going to be I see it on a global scale as things are moving literally towards the the new world order, if you want to call it, and they're doing away with it. So we're going to have classes. Our kids will be doing class. This is just a beta test. They're going to have classes for kids, man, over the internet. Your kid won't go to school. There's going to be mass unemployment.
So, Ali, you think this is going to continue permanently in the future, that kids will not go to schools at all?
Well, this is just a beta test, I think. This is just to test out the system, see how it's going to work. And
yeah, but I don't see the advantage to the New World Order, who have had the Frankfurt School and the programming so long, to be not having schools when schools were the way they brainwashed kids. It seems in their it's to their.
Excuse me, you've forgotten about the television. You forgot about the television frame rates and stuff like that. They hypnotise you. So
but they send you to school.
No, get them in front of a screen, and it's a lot easier to get someone into the state of that open to suggestion kind of thing, that suggestive state that you get in it. It's easier to do it with a television or a screen. Just produce the flicker rate that goes into and that's where it's going.
If your brain goes into some kind of delta state or something, and you're
that's it, delta.
Yeah, and we've seen YouTube. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to ask: does a computer screen have that same kind of characteristic that the old school TVs used to have with the flicker?
Stick your camera at your screen. Get a camera.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
Get your iPhone and then look.
Yeah, you're right.
Then you'll see it.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
And that's just like.
And we've already got Google controlling what we can watch as well, and YouTube what we can watch, and Facebook. I'm getting messages about how to behave during this Corona crisis. So the program is already there.
We've also got I'll just insert here because that gets my goat up. We've also got Google colonizing the whole port area of Dublin. They're taking over every building. Okay, so that's my say about Google physically.
So they may be testing whether they can do without schools.
Google's just opened up a big, huge place in Denmark. I've actually moved. Guys, yeah. They're opening up a couple of places actually in Denmark. Oh. It's getting taken over. Yeah, this is like a move. I always look at because I'm more interested in on the global kind of scale rather than about the virus. I'm just looking at who's going to gain advantage. We're going to get into debt. Remember that. These our governments borrow off our private banks, man. It's not like the World Bank or whatever. They actually borrow money off our private banks. Now, what they're having to do, this is going to cost how many billions and billions, hundreds of billions of pounds in Britain, in Denmark, paying out 80% of wages or paying employers, recompensing big companies, corporations. I mean, that's what I look at. I don't give a fuck about the virus.
I think they're gonna select large companies and bail them out. You know what I see in this? I don't know if any of you agree with me. I think this is a Bolshevik takeover. I think the New World Order is like emanating from like communist quarters.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
but you've got to remember, communism is socialism. Anything with an ism, communism is socialism is communism. They're all the same. They're all the same philosophies. It's all about control.
Yeah, but then you have the kind of distinction between Nazism and communism in the old days. But essentially, they were both tyrannical powers based on some kind of socialism. I'm not so against taking care of the vulnerable either, but I think that it should be done on more of a small scale basis, like a town or just a region would take care of the elderly. Or
I'm a full-on capitalist, right? I'm a full-on capitalist, but not crony. What Alex Jones called crony capitalism, right? I'm a capitalist. And the thing is, with most people, I give away, I'm a capitalist. Even when I had my own business, I've had a couple of businesses. I give away money. I haven't got a problem. If I'm earning enough money and I want to help someone that's old, pay money to the health service or schools or whatever, I ain't got a problem with that. And most people that practice true capitalism, it's not about greed. It's just they've dirtied the name of capitalism. That's what they've done.
I always see it in terms of scale. I've looked into all these isms for donkey's ages, and I kind of think that scale, like the scale of the corporations that are like in charge now, they're enormous. Like you say global.
What's
I would
a donkey's age?
Oh, did you hear something? Was that?
Yeah, I said, what's a donkey's age? What's a donkey? What is that?
It's one of the Irish expressions I've picked up.
I know what the expression means,
for 20
right?
years.
Yeah, I know what it means, but in terms of like what it originated as.
No, it just means that I've studied a long time about different governments, and I studied philosophy of government and all that. I ended up being more of an anarchist in the
Woohoo! Anarchism. It's the only way.
Yeah, Mark, just take
Yeah, I think it's not. I don't like the connotation of anarchism, where even like left-wing Marxists, social Marxists, are now being called or calling themselves anarchists when they throw milkshakes at us. You know, they call that anarchism. I like the proper connotation of anarchism, which just means the aprivative of archy, which is a leader. So it's more cooperation between people instead of being directed by a leader.
Yeah, it means no rulers or no leaders. We don't need leaders. And as Ali says, let market forces dictate what happens. At the moment, we are taxed 70% of our earnings, either from our wage packet or the duty that's put on everything that we have to buy. The way I see it, it's like a guy with a gun comes to you and says, "Get out of your car, I'm taking it. Oh, and by the way, here's a £5 to get home." But the only way you can get home is that with a taxi firm that the guy with the gun owns. The government don't give us benefits. They rob us and rob us and rob us, and they give us a little bit back, and they use the word benefit. It's not a benefit, it's just a little token given back to you. And then when you spend that benefit, everything's got a valued added tax or a purchase tax on it. And then people criticise it, or we're told you've got to save for your old age. Well, how on earth can we save if we've been taxed at 70% all our working life?
Yeah, I agree. Did you ever read? There was a book called "Taxation is Legal Plunder."
Yeah, that legal plunder. That's your man Frederic Bastiat, about 150 years ago, French philosopher. He wrote a book called.
I love this book. Yeah.
He wrote a pamphlet. Actually, it's called The Law, and he uses that expression, legal plunder, and that's what socialism is. It's the government legally plundering you. And it's not just like they're not just like a highwayman that maybe steal from you once. They come back every year to steal from you.
Yeah.
And it's legal plunder. And this bit about getting rid of cash, it suits them. I mean, nobody will be able to do back pocket purchasing. Everything will be.
That's right. You can't have a deal in an alleyway when you have only plastic, can you?
Exactly. And if I've got second-hand furniture to sell, and my neighbour wants to buy it for £50, the government's coming in to say, "Oh, we want 10% of that exchange." And when there's no cash,
that's right.
It's going to have to
go. That's right. And
go through.
You couldn't have a lemonade stand. You couldn't have a lemonade stand. You couldn't have a yard sale.
Very hard to argue with.
All of those forms of trade and commerce.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so immoral.
Go back real quick.
It is so immoral to watch two other people exchanging goods and services, and a third person come along and say, "I want 10% of that deal," when it's nothing to do with them. Now
exactly.
Yeah.
It started in feudalism with the lord of the manor saying, "Well, this part of your farm, that'll be my bit."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Then we had the British aren't really familiar with the divine right of kings, but I've found that when I spoke to American people, you're very familiar with that. Are you going to let me down here, Nora?
You want me to comment on the American view of the divine right of kings? No, ask Travis. I haven't been in America for ages.
Well,
I haven't lived.
I would only say, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I would say that I only know about it because I thought that that's what the British Empire was. I mean, that's where we learned about the divine right of kings, was King James and everyone else, that they wrote that into their narrative. That is, the kings are the divine representation of God on earth. So the fact that you aren't familiar with it and think that we are, we only know about it because we think that that's what Britain is.
Yeah, you celebrate your independence from the British, and it's part of your education about the divine right of kings. If you were to ask the average British person, do you know about the divine right of kings, they wouldn't have a clue. But I've always found that Americans are familiar with that. They know what it is. And what happened during the Grand Revolution? What was it called? Come on, Americans, you can tell me my own history.
It's called the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War.
The Glorious Revolution. That's what it's called, isn't it? Where the king lost his title of the divine right, but it just passed on to Parliament. So a group of people had that divine right of kings, and so we still, in our psyche, we still think we've got owners and rulers, and that they can tax us, and the state is there to look after us. So
well, I do remember.
I don't think they were given the divine right to rule the government. All the government were put in places to put a buffer zone between them, the royalty. But even the royalty now, they're just puppets. They actually have no power either, and the government don't. You know, they don't rule anything. Yeah, you think about this, Mark. Right, one sec. You think about this, right? I've had one company. I've had two companies. Well, I've had quite a few companies, and I always closed them down myself. I never went bankrupt, and I was always successful. But the point was, if I always look at the government, I'm thinking, right, okay, they'll work for us, right? And as a boss, right, because we pay their wages, so we are their boss. As a boss, I always think, right, would I employ these people? I would have sacked them fucking years ago, man. These people, I wouldn't entertain them, and that's how I look. I look at me as I'm a boss, right? I'm the boss of. We're all bosses, right? We employ these people to take care of like foreign affairs, cut deals for us, you know, to keep the economy going. And they're not doing a very good job of it.
That's kind of an illusion. In a lot of ways, that's an illusion. I agree. We're bosses, but I think of it more like I'm a sovereign. I'm a sovereign entity. Like we're all the king. You know.
Yeah, we as individuals.
Yeah, like Pete says, I agree, but I'm not a king. Yeah. See, this is a problem because we use the words like king and sovereign. Sovereign's a dirty word now.
You think
a sovereign's someone that gets paid. Well, a sovereign's a coin, isn't it?
Sovereign. Well, right. Doesn't it mean something else? Well, it means to reign over. It means to reign over, and you can reign over yourself. Sover means over.
Ali.
Guys, listen to this. Sover, with Danish means to sleep.
Oh.
It's sovereign. The word sovereign does not come from Danish.
No, I never said it did. I'm just saying.
I know.
Ali, you're right that they are our servants. They are civil. They should be doing what we tell them. But when you talk to them, that they refer to themselves as being in power, and it's the wrong word. You know.
Exactly. I just broke in there when he said that. I mean, do they ever? They never ever do what they're employed to do, ever.
And even though bums on the seats of Westminster change every 4 years or so, we still have the judiciary and the corporations and the banks. They and the royal family. They never change. It's all a big con.
Exactly.
It's smoke
this idea that we are employing these people to serve us is. I think that's a hoax. It's a hoax, and I remember because I was raised in the States and I went to high school age in the American schools, and I do remember them talking a lot about the divine right of kings, but I think that they would put that into the American education system because they want to they want to propagandize us so that we think, oh no, we don't have that. We have no danger of anyone thinking that they have the divine rights, you know. And then it's just pro-American propaganda, like when they demonized all the Soviets to us, you know. So we did hear about the divine right of kings. You're right, Mark.
Yeah, and the authority, the people, it was it's just smoke and mirrors. It passed over to Westminster or the Houses of Parliament, but people still had that idea that they needed to be controlled, and they went from the King to members of Parliament who still rob us at every corner.
Yeah.
Ali, I hope you still agree with me.
Some of these things start off as a good idea. They'll have a little bit of a revolution, and then they'll say, "Oh, we'll have lower taxes with this system."
Yeah.
But it always ends up in the hands of the same people. And to point, the coronavirus means the crown. The crown. We're under the crown. Most of us. Most of us are under this huge corporation of the crown. Essentially. The King of England, the Queen of England always owned all of the land. They own loads of the Commonwealth is considered
Yes,
under the crown.
that's right. When you buy a house here, you think you own it, but it's on a leasehold of 99 years. So it means that you'll survive. The house will survive you, but it's still registered, and reg means ruler. It still belongs to
Under the king. Register Regus, Rex Regus.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
King.
yeah. You see, you get a 99-year lease. When somebody says, "I own my house," you don't. It's leased to you.
Exactly. It's like glorified rent.
I've got a tip. I've got a tip for anybody buying a house. Anybody that won't know having that information that we don't actually ever own it, is get a mortgage, buy a house because it's cheaper than rent. But be aware that it can get taken off you any time. But hey, and a no interest, get an interest only, because I always thought, right, it's better me getting that money than now, right? It's better me getting that money than now, because as you say, Mark, in 99 years it'll get taken off, or when I die, it'll get taxed or whatever. So I always think I'd rather have the money now. You know what I mean? Because I know I don't own it. So why the fuck would I want to go and get a full mortgage and pay a full whack when I can get an interest only, fixed rate?
But Ali, some people, I could never even get on the property ladder. But that said, the mortgage is like a rent. It's like a rent. It's like a rent.
Yeah, but understanding that's what I'm saying. But it's a lot cheaper than paying rent to a private landlord.
Exactly, I'm not allowed to avail of that cheap deal.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, it's rigged. It's rigged against you.
It is. We have a lot of renters in Dublin, and it's part of the reason we have a housing crisis.
Yeah.
They can't get on the property ladder. Not allowed. You go in the bank, they'll tell you no. Oh, you're an artist? They'll laugh you out the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so, okay. What's going to happen with the coronavirus after? One thing that a lot of people keep on saying that kind of gets me upset is this Q thing. Have you listened to this? They've got a whole bunch of people thinking that this means Trump is wonderful and he's the savior. And I just don't think that's very wise. They don't really know that.
Well, I got a theory. If I can just chip in here, I've got a theory about
Yes,
Trump.
please. Yeah.
If you remember, when Obama was in and Hillary Clinton, they want to take the guns away from the American people. Now, these guys, these people that are sort of running things, are great at predicting trends or forecasting, the future, like 4 years down the line. They planned 4 or 5 years down the line. So I think they realised that there was going to be a bit of civil unrest, because Hillary Clinton was, we want the guns, we want to take the guns. Obama done the same. And then along comes, and there was loads of talk from these gun owners and stuff like that. They're going to take our guns. Suddenly Trump comes along, right? Mr. The Saviour of the Universe. Not a peep out the gun owners now. Not a peep. Nobody's complaining about it. Nobody's getting threatened to take their guns away. And that's all it was. They knew it. They knew.
So you think it was just to pacify
Yep.
like all the Alex Jones listeners and keep them quiet for a while so they can do whatever they want.
They knew this was coming. That's what I'm saying. They predict trends like 3-4 years in advance, man. And they knew there was going to be a bit of civil unrest if it kept going the way it was going. They had to put someone in to placate the gun owners. Cause,
Yeah, that's a good theory. That's a good theory. It seems likely.
I've
And
got
you see
right?
them all. You see them very a little more docile now. Q believing people are slightly more docile. Like they'd be the first to say, "Oh yeah, this means like when they got locked down." They think, "Oh yeah, let's go indoors because now Trump's cleaning the swamp and arresting all of these pedophiles." So they're very happy to sit in their house and do what they're told. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That was my opinion. And I even, a year and a half before Trump got elected, I was going into American chats, just any chats that it was like American podcast or whatever, and just saying them, I hope you're ready for Trump. Trump's your next president. And that was a year and a half before I seen it coming. As he came. I'm just going about because
I had a bit of feeling like that too, Ali. And well, now that it's happening, this lockdown and all that, I kind of looked into things in that direction, tried to assess what Q is saying and all that. But what I notice is all the time comes to the fore for me is that he's such great friends with Putin and Netanyahu. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, but so was right. Here's a little interesting fact for people if they want. Right, in I think it was 1945 or 46. Right, America signed an agreement with Russia to pass on all their technology. Right, they signed a contract with it. Right now, we all know what a contract is. Right, and they won't break it. So what they've basically been doing is they've been given all the tech. They're all in it together. There isn't
Yeah,
any war going
yeah,
or any. It's
they're
just
working together. And you say they had a contract in what year?
I think it was 1945 or 1946. They had a contract to help with their technology and give all their new technology they had. If people actually looked into what the how many billions and billions of dollars that Americans pay to other countries where they give them airplanes, rockets. The country like Saudi Arabia, they don't pay for it. They don't buy them or anything.
Exactly. I know
It's done
there's one
under
that I don't even want to mention. There's one one Middle Eastern country that I can't even mention. That they consider America their army.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah, but the point is, listen, the point is that there's about 20 odd countries that America gives planes to, rockets, everything, man, and literally services is written on the contracts. If you look at the contracts, if you Google military contractors, right, and you'll get a big long list, and go and have a look what if you read what the contracts say, it's like they service the like Lockheed or Northrop Grumman or whatever these whichever company is, they service and they build the weapons, and it's costing the Americans. So the Americans are actually arming the whole, well, all their allies, but usually are paying. The Americans are paying for it.
Yeah. The arms trade is huge in America. I have a cousin; she's in it, and I find it very unethical that she is even in that job. Northrop Grumman. She's always on the phone to these people. They're selling overseas. You're right. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
they're not actually
so
selling overseas.
what does this mean about what can that tell us about what is actually happening, what is unfolding right now with this lockdown thing? I want to know what their end game is, what will be the next 2 months. Will we have Russian tanks rolling up the street and telling us to register Putin now?
Yeah,
I know that's ridiculous.
There was a really interesting short video from Channel X today. I think it was Channel X, and he's driving up the highway in Illinois, and he's passing by this mile and mile stretch of just Humvee after Humvee after Humvee after Humvee. And when he started filming, he said that he had already passed by about 50 of them. So there was just this military line of Humvees going into, I don't know if it was Chicago or some other place in Illinois, but that was an interesting sight to see.
Also, Travis, I just put up on my Facebook from the Italian groups. There were Russian troops going into Milan in big trucks, Humvees and big trucks. So what is all this military mobilization? Are they going to shoot the viruses out of the air with their guns? What's it about?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Yeah.
Mark, up in the north.
Yeah.
Have you seen any military activity?
Yeah, we've seen tanks, military vehicles on the streets of Lisbon, which is like the number 2 or maybe the number 3 city in Northern Ireland. And there was military vehicles coming off a ferry in the port of Warren Point. Now, Warren Point is not really a busy port. It's like a sort of a backdoor port. And it was interesting that they chose Warren Point to bring the military vehicles in. And we're getting hints from the Northern Ireland office that I'm going to have to drop, guys. Great to chat. Alan. Okay, see you.
Okay, bye, Ali.
See you, Ali.
Bye.
Yeah, listen.
Nice to talk to you.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Yeah. All right, I'll speak to you later.
Bye, Ali.
Yeah, nice one, Travis. I'm going to be listening anyway, guys. But as I say, I've got my partner's. He's in his bed at the moment, so I can't really talk. So, bit of respect.
I didn't know you were gay.
I'm the only gay in the truck.
Oh, okay.
That's a big shout out to Little Britain. All right, guys. I'll be listening. It was a great chat.
See
right, take it easy.
See you, Ali.
Yeah, bud. All right, bye now. Good night.
All right. Anybody else out there in the chat, if you want to join, just tag me and we can get you the link if you want to join the conversation.
I'm just going on a bathroom break. Hang on, gentlemen.
So, Travis, you say...
Hi, Nora.
So it's in Illinois, this was, yeah? A whole string of military vehicles?
Right. It was just like a 2-minute video while he was driving. He held up his phone, but he was in the passing lane, and he just kept passing truck after truck after truck. And he said that he read off the, I think he said that they were the 283rd Regiment. So they must have been.
Okay, so they're American, yeah? American.
Right. Yeah, Army, I would think.
Did you hear, what's it, Steve JMO? Steve JMO, are you listening to his streams?
No, I don't know who that is.
Oh, it's one of Brian Staveley's friends.
Okay.
You know Brian Staveley, yeah?
Yeah.
He's only 25. He's really, really intelligent for his age. Amazing brain on him. He said that the local, this is just a small detail, that the military base in his town took down the American flag. But like, I'm just trying to collect all these accounts of little vestiges of mobilization happening, and it's military, and it seems so disproportionate to the amount of deaths of coronavirus.
So what would that mean in terms of, is that a symbol for conquering that particular location? Because we don't
just, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say that it means anything, but right. I mean, people are noticing. I'm following all these stories and accounts all over the world, and like people talking on Facebook, people talking from Italy, and everybody has some kind of story about military that they're seeing, and like they'll put it on their Facebook. And this was what he said. He said he felt disturbed because it's not normal for that flag to not be in front of that base.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Huh. Okay, so it was a military base, and they took down the flag at the base.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it was just some city.
No. The military base hasn't got its flag up. Like.
Yeah, that's interesting. Huh.
Yeah. I thought that was weird. And then people in England are also showing rows of like tanks or military trucks along the side of the road. Not really long ones, not like you say in Illinois. Have you seen it? Where are you living now?
I'm in Maryland. So yeah, that's what I thought this morning when I saw that video. I was thinking, I wonder why it's happening there. You know, what would be the catalyst there? What would be their reason for saying, you know, why they're moving in or whatever they're doing? Who knows? I mean, they might have just been, I don't know, because I've seen caravans of army trucks going up and down in the past years as a driver, right? I've seen along not miles and miles, not 50, but 10 to 20 deep. And I just figured, oh, they're probably just transporting. They're just going from one place to the next. So, the guy who Channel X didn't have intelligence in terms of where they were going and why. It's all just,
well, yeah. How do we know what they are doing if they don't disclose it? We don't know what they're doing. But it's very notable that so many accounts are coming out of people seeing military convoys or tents like the ones that we see in Dublin, and just like random sightings of like troops. It looks like troops coming in. And nobody's being told. Everyone's being told about the coronavirus and how you're gonna like catch it if you touch someone. And don't touch your face. Meanwhile, what is this? What are these military things coming around? What is going on?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it has to do with just misdirection. If we're focusing on one area or whatnot, we might see a caravan of army-based vehicles, but we might not necessarily think twice about it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange. And I asked at the when I called the HSE, the health board. I asked them, is that one of the test centers where the military is camped out on the river? And he said, what military camped out on the river? He said, I didn't know about that. And I said, but they told me it was testing for coronavirus. And he said, oh, really? This is a guy in the health, like the info line for coronavirus and how you're supposed to get tested. He didn't know why didn't he like just tell me exactly why those tents were out there on the river? Like why?
Right, sure.
Why didn't he know that? Yeah.
Yeah. If it's for public safety, then there's no reason not to disclose the information. But
that's what I'm thinking. Like if it is for testing, and if you really do need an army, like you do need the help of the military to like take up the slack for all the hospitals. And by the way, Flat Earth Fokker has proved that like a lot of the hospitals are empty. But if you do need the military, then why don't you say it? Why doesn't the Prime Minister get out and say, well, this military section will be taking care of you, and this military group will be helping this hospital? They'd be upfront about it if it were to help you, right?
Sure. Now, here's my thought when you were talking about this earlier. Tomorrow, do it again, but record it. Call again and pretend like you're just a new person with the same questions. That way you can,
I'm having trouble finding a good way to record calls, actually. But I did. I don't.
So if you, what do you have for your phone?
I record calls a lot.
Yeah. So what phone do you have?
It's a Galaxy 5.
Okay.
An Android.
Yeah, if ever I'm trying to
recommend a good call recorder.
It's called Tapeacall, TAPEACALL, Tapeacall. That's the one I use.
And it works well.
Yeah. Okay. What you would do is.
What I'm saying is I might have that one. I'm just trying to be cautious about like in Ireland, people like what are the protocols about recording conversations. I've done it many times, and I don't want to like cross anybody. I don't want anyone to say, "Hey, you recorded me,"
Well, I don't think that in my mind, if you're not getting personal information like the person's name necessarily, or you're not going to publish it in a way that's
defamatory.
Yeah, I don't think that it. But
but do you know that I saw do you know this thing called Project Veritas?
I don't think so. I mean, I've heard a lot of things with Veritas in the name of it, but is it something new?
No, it's a website that started when all of this clampdown on YouTube happened, all the censorship. They're one of the things that emerged, and they had a story on recently where the man from Project Veritas was going into a courtroom hearing, dealing with trying to revoke a law that actually got passed in Massachusetts, which I find very shocking, that it will be illegal to record conversations like with cops or public people, or like record a phone call in America, in Massachusetts. It will be illegal to do that, even if it's in a park. So there are people trying to push back against investigative journalism that way by making recording calls illegal. It's the classic way that investigative journalists work.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to follow, like, where is it legal?
I mean, the whole thing that you were talking about before with kings and property, and and even the international relationships that we have with other countries, that's got nothing to do with you or me, right? So I've started calling the United States, I've started calling it the United Corporation of America, because it's a business and it's operating commercial businesses with other commercial businesses. And
absolutely. That's been official since 1871.
Right.
There's some kind of act back then that made it a corporation. The United States of America is a corporation.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, I have to. Is Mark there? Somebody's coming to the door, and I have to kind of tell him what's going on here.
Yes, I'm still here. Yeah.
Why don't you carry on, because I have to check the door. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Grace. Okay. Travis Milbean, how far are you away from your next stop?
I'm here right now. I'm back in, waiting to get loaded.
Okay, and did you keep your distance from other human beings?
Well, yeah, it's easy because there's hardly anybody here. This place doesn't let us in the warehouse anymore. I used to be able to walk in and use the restroom or whatever, but they won't let anybody in unless you are an employee. So It's no big deal.
And then are you making your way back home after that?
Well, no, no. I've got another stop after this. I've got, what time is it? Probably about 6 or 7 more hours of my day left.
Right. Okay.
So, but no worries. How are you on time? Do you need to wrap it up? Or?
No, I'm fine. Unless you want to get rid of me.
Okay. No, not at all. Not at all. I just didn't want to make you feel obliged to hang around if you had something else to do. So, are you limited now with your DoorDash?
I don't know yet. I only do it at weekends, so I did last weekend. We'll find out what happens this Friday. I deliver Indian food, and the ethics of Indians is anything for £1. They'll stay open for another hour just to make another £1. So I don't know. I doubt whether they'll close unless they're enforced. It's enforced.
Do you like what you're doing?
No, I hate it. I hate doing it. But it's a bit of pocket. It's a bit of pocket money, I only do it for the pocket money. So we've got somebody called Catherine. Is it Wiley or Willie? Wiley. That's
I think she's from Alaska. Yeah.
Yeah. She mentioned there was 37 deaths. What's the context of that? Is it the coronavirus? Is it?
I don't know. I'm just looking right now. I didn't see her comment yet, but yeah. Again, anybody out there? Oh, there it is. Sending love off grid. Yeah, she's off grid. 37 deaths in Alaska now. I would guess that's high. That's pretty high.
Yeah,
For,
yeah.
Are you saying that that's correct?
I have a problem with talking about these numbers of deaths. I have a problem with that.
Can I just?
How do we know? How do we verify?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there was a woman on Radio Ulster today. Ulster's the name for Northern Ireland, and the first corona victim died today. She was an elderly woman who was suffering from dementia. She got a fever last week, and she didn't survive a full week. So there may be a virus that caused it, but it wasn't a young fit person.
There may not have been. Maybe she was dying, and maybe somebody gave her a corona test, which wouldn't have happened at any time except now. And because it turned up a certain strand of that RNA that they say is that virus, she was said to die of it and not her other ailment. Now, this could happen time and time and time and time again. You can have whatever statistics you want.
Yes, it is. It's lies, damn lies, and statistics, isn't it?
Yes.
I personally think
that's the.
Go on.
I was just going to say real quick, that's the earlier 3 links that I put in when we started the chat or the stream. The doctor who did those 3 episodes, they're pretty short. Well, actually, the third one is over an hour, but the first 2 were just really short. But that was what he did at the beginning of his stream. He talked about the different statistics of death worldwide, and everything has blown the coronavirus out of the water, right? There's only been it's 1,000th of a percentage.
Dartman has just put a comment there that a 27-year-old girl in the UK with no underlying health issues confirmed that she had coronavirus. Okay, we have to take that on board.
Of course. Maybe somebody did die of the flu caused by this strain of coronavirus, but it's not the pandemic they're saying.
No, well, in 2 months' time, if 27-year-olds are dying all over the place, that's a very throwaway comment. Forgive me.
I qualify that. It's not yet.
Yes, that's right.
But I don't suspect. I don't think it will be. We don't know the future, but it was supposed to spread to all of the population by now, according to the spread rate that they publicized when it first hit China. If it had hit if every one infected person hit 10 others, it would have gone all over the world by now, to the point where we, be overwhelmed with all these dead people. Most people would know someone who's it's gone way slower than they said.
Yeah, Darkman, it's a statistic today of a 27-year-old that died, and they were proved positive of the coronavirus. Let's hope that it's just a one-off, and that's not going to be the pandemic of what we're being told. Well, we hear strange stories of young men, rugby players, who over-exercise and die of sudden. Well, it's not sudden infant death syndrome.
Right. Yeah.
No, those are very sad stories. Well, anybody who dies, it's a sad story.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There was a huge incidence of an abnormally high flu rate in Holland a few years ago, and it didn't get any attention. People were dying, like a lot.
Right. So that means that there's something else going on that this is a cover for, that is going to be, expressing itself at some point down the road. This is not the issue. The issue is not the coronavirus.
I think that so far. I feel like it's a cover of something else.
This is more extensive than we've ever seen before, right? If we think back in the past 20 years, whenever we've had swine flu or SARS or whatever it is, it's never gotten to a pandemic. It's never gotten this extensive. So there is something different about what's going on.
I remember the Hong Kong flu of 1968. where 1 million people died. 15% of the population got it, and many people died from it. So I do remember that. I'd have only been 8 years old at the time.
Did you ever look into it later on? Do you know what was the characteristic of it?
It had another code name, H whatever, very similar to the coronavirus one.
Yeah.
And my parents remember the wasn't there, or my auntie, they remember the swine flu is it the early 80s or the late 70s?
Yeah, that came to nothing, didn't it?
It did, but people died of the vaccine in that case.
Right, yeah, and that's exactly the woman. I think her name is Amanda. I'll look her channel up and put it in.
The girl from the woman from Globebusters.
Yeah. If it, I think it was the Globebusters where she talked about it, but she talked about the swine flu. She debunked the swine flu, that it was, it's a created infection that you can only get it if your body is penetrated by a needle and it's injected into you. You cannot get it outside of your body. It cannot live.
Wow.
And so so she talked about the swine flu. The other things that those guys,
maybe so that incidence in the 70s, maybe the deaths were all from people vaccinated with it.
That's exactly the same thing happened with polio. I mean, if you look into this stuff, the reason why, think about this, when did it become public knowledge that it's flu season, right? When did that become a thing? So
I don't know. Wasn't it sort of in the 80s and 90s that we started hearing that?
Well, but my point is, let's say, for instance, there was no flu season in the 60s. Let's say there was no flu season in the 70s, but there became a flu season in the 80s. Now we're 30 years later. We just know that every year at this time, guess what? It's flu season. Now, what you do, because you know that it's flu season, is you go get your inoculation. So what if that's the creation of the flu season? So we're now 30 years after the fact, but something back in the 80s that didn't exist, that then started to exist, came about because of a narrative that they created in order to start this seasonal sickness.
Yeah, the flu season. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It very well could be that. And I know, I know an old man. I think he died of taking these flu shots because he started to have more dementia right after taking them, and then it just got worse and worse, and they kept giving him a jab every single year, and then he just died. So I always had this feeling that the jab, the flu shot, caused flu because of seeing people getting.
Yeah. And again, it's to misuse the term, it's user friendly. So you might not get the flu, but someone else who gets the inoculation within a couple of days or the next week, they get the flu.
Yeah.
That happens. So how is it? And I've never had it happen to me, so I don't know, but I would wonder if I would be woke enough, let's say 5 years ago when I wasn't woke. Let's say I go in and get a flu shot and then I get the flu. What the fuck would I think? Would I think, wasn't I not supposed to get the flu? Why do I have the flu? I don't know.
It always bothered me when a person that I know would have the flu after getting the shot. I would always think, that's so wrong, that's so backwards. Isn't it supposed to prevent it?
Right.
That's just really, really backwards, isn't it?
That's what I think, but I've never had that experience. I've never known anyone. I've only just heard.
If you read these like this insert and that for the test and that and the inoculations and stuff, they do always put that as a kind of side effect. They put the side effect is getting the symptoms of flu.
Well, that's the whole thing. Shelley Lewis is the person that I can think of that I heard this from. And she says there are no side effects. They are the effects.
Yeah. Yeah, and they really minimize them. Yeah, they minimize them on the inserts for the and the advertisements for the flu shots. They say, "Oh, you'll have a bit of an effect. It'll be like flu, but it won't be flu. It won't be flu, even though you'll be dying for 2 days as you would in a flu. You know, it's ridiculous."
Right. Yeah. So instead of 4 days, it'll be 2 or something like that. But the other thing that blew my mind when I thought about this a couple of years ago, was that, the body's natural response to certain infections is a fever, right? You want a fever. You want that. And yet
when taking all this paracetamol is that very good. It wrecks your liver and it takes down the fever.
We are trained to reduce. Oh, you don't want a fever. You don't want to feel bad. Take this fever reducer. But they, it's like they know. They know.
And we're supposed to
your body.
Just
they know your body is that's the way your body was created, was to turn up the heat and kill off the bacteria or the infection. And so
you're a guy, so you're probably not like a wimp like me. When I get sick, I'm a wimp, and I want to have like painkillers, and I want my fever to go away. I want comfort, right? But have you ever sometimes I don't go for like the antibiotics, even if I have a chest infection or something. I do get chest infections quite often, but sometimes I say, right now, I'm just going to brave it out. I'm going to sweat this out, and I'm just going to, if I die, I die. And then the fever burns through you, and it goes away so fast.
Well, that's the whole thing that this woman, again, this is what reminded me of that thought that I had in terms of fevers. She brought out the part that I think she said something to the effect of, if you do get the flu or if you do get a fever, she said, wrap yourself in a blanket and speed the process up.
Yeah,
burn it out.
Yourself sweat it out.
Or and then she brought up the fact of sweat lodges. Back in the Aboriginal people, that they knew this, they understood this. They had sweat lodges all the time. They went in there to detoxify themselves, push their shit out, and but we don't live in that world anymore. That's the other thing that you said earlier, Nora, that I was going to ask you about, just for a topic, is caring for the elderly, right? My question, as soon as you said that, I thought, okay, so what did an Aboriginal tribe do for the elderly? Like, did they separate them off? Did they make them have their own little community? Did they have their own little, TP or something like that? Or no,
No, they didn't have old age homes. They'd probably be more likely to be learned and wise, and people would respect them.
Yeah, but everybody else loved them. Everybody else was like that's their grandma, that's their auntie, or whatever. Everybody loved those people. You would love your community.
That's how Irish communities used to be. We were tribal before. My family's Irish. I was raised in the States, but all of my family's Irish. So like we have all those old stories. It's a very family-centered, tribe-centered kind of a mentality. And they used to respect the old people. The old people were allowed to tell you what to do. They were allowed to tell you what to do. They didn't send them to nursing homes in the old days that I know.
Yeah, I wonder.
They really did, but like I'm thinking old days, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if cities were a creation of the ruling class, because we have been raised in an environment. We have been raised in a community that is not agrarian. So we're already at a deficit. We live in a place where we don't grow our own foods. We don't know how to grow our own foods. A lot of us don't even know how to cook our own foods, right? And so they created an environment that they knew that they could control. They provide everything for you. I remember having a conversation with my mom, who's not woke, although she's a little bit more dubious of certain things. But um, I was talking to her. Oh, she talked about back in World War II, where they enlisted all of those women to help with the war, which meant that they had to leave the home, which meant that there was no one cooking and taking care of the home. So then they create this whole supply and demand of canned foods.
What,
Yeah.
What
Right.
we,
So now that
That's when Campbell's probably started. No, they probably had Campbell's before that.
but the
Yeah, I
point
remember
is,
all those stories. I remember all those stories from my uncles about like Rosie the Riveter, and they had to leave the home, and
yeah, but the point is
everything
that
changed.
they had the food supplied for them, ready to make. All you got to do is throw it in a pot and just heat it up. It's ready to go. Everything's made for you, so that
Yeah,
when they
and during those decades is when like Kellogg's took over big, like they started having corporate farming in the States.
okay,
They had
but now,
huge General Mills, Kellogg's, and all that.
right. But listen, once you have that convenience, you're not going to necessarily go back to making your own food. Why do that? It's already made for you. So you're not going to go back to the way it used to be. They created an environment where they could then create a need, provide the answer, but then perpetuate that lifestyle.
Yeah, consumerism itself is almost like problem, reaction, solution there. But some people do, they go off grid. But it is difficult. I have a friend here in Sligo, and when I want to get out of the city, I go up to Sligo. And what he and his sister and his mates did was rent a farmhouse together
Yeah.
and start to grow things. They needed a way to make some money, right? They were kind of like hippies, and
Yeah.
a couple of them needed visitation places for their children because they were divorced, and it turned into this little farm. So I go up there, and in the summers and just anytime like that they're doing stuff, and I tried to help in the farm. It's so hard. It's hard.
I love it.
Like
I
we
told
go
my
down, we go
yeah.
so we go down to we have to take these like really rudimentary wheelbarrows that he has, right? And we
Yeah.
carry him all the way to the shoreline because he's on a
Oh,
peninsula in the
yeah.
west of Ireland. We shovel all of this like seaweed into the wheelbarrow, and then we lug it up there. We have to go over this little part where you can't get over to the road. Like it's not easy. Like, and then you have to carry it all the way, and then you use the seaweed to fertilize, and then you get a really good crop. And then you have to, oh, and he has some generational seeds. That's the other thing that we do. He had some nice plants that were, what are they, ancestral seeds,
Yeah.
where you can take the seeds. It's not a Monsanto seed.
Heirloom.
Take the
Heirloom.
seed, and then you can, yeah, heirloom seeds. That's it. And then you can plant the next crop the next year. It's
Yeah.
nice up there. But he stopped doing it. Do you know what happened to him? He got Lyme disease. So, but anyway, it's very, very difficult to try to farm. Farming
So
is hard.
is there a correlation in your mind with the Lyme disease, or did that come up in a discussion, or why did you throw that in?
No, I just said that I just said that because he stopped doing that. I don't know if I can do it anymore
Oh.
because he got sick. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother is 93, and my mom moved in with her and her father 3 years ago because his health was so bad, and he passed away 2 years ago. My mom stayed up there, but my mom is just, she's hated every minute of it, and I have been begging her to, because I'm in a place where I'm no longer tied down with my family, so I'm able to just, I could pick up and go anywhere if I wanted to, if I had the ability to start over. But they've got an acre's worth of land, and I'm like, Mom, I'll be the caretaker. I will turn that place over and make it a place for us to live off the land. And they just do not want to do that, and they're trying to sell the property. And I'm like, Mom, it's a
They don't give
million.
it to you?
It's a no. It's $1 million property. I said, Mom, there's no way you're going to ever be able to have that kind of a commodity. If you get rid of that property, you're never going to get anything like it back. Do not sell that. And I every once in a while I still bring it up again, but yeah, because
I hope you convince her to keep it. I hope you can keep it in your family.
Yeah, me too.
I have another friend up in Sligo, another guy. He has some land. He's like me. He was raised in the States, and he's in an Irish family, and they're from Sligo. And his family finally gave him some land, but he can't do it. He's lazy. He can't get it up and running. He's a terrible farmer.
That's funny.
Like you really have to work if you're going to farm the land.
Yeah, no doubt. And who knows what who knows what the soil. I mean, my grandparents had fruit trees galore when I was growing up. I ate apricots, I ate plums, I ate raspberries, blackberries as a kid. They had everything at one time. So, and she still has some citrus there. It's just not as plentiful. At least because she still has citrus trees, the soil can be helpful for production. I just don't know, what the limit would be in terms of other things, but I can't imagine you wouldn't be able to grow basic staples.
Yeah. Like Toby, the guy who has the land up in Sligo, he kind of he lets one lay fallow for a while. If you don't cultivate there, then it'll be better the next year. And you put the we put the seaweed over it. So the other guy, the lazy one, he's just got plastic over it. He put plastic over his land. He spent so much money on the plastic. Anyway, we're way off topic. What are we supposed to be talking about?
No, anything. Talking about anything.
Okay.
Well, let's just do some shout outs out there. Mark's out there, Allie B's out there, David, George Sanford, Howard Moore, Eyes to See, Dartman. Again, if you guys want to join Catherine, we can get you guys the link for the Skype call, and come on, join in and change the topic if you want, or join the topic at hand.
The original topic was what the hell is happening with this coronavirus, and nobody knows.
Well, my question was the good things that are happening. At the moment, I'm really enjoying time with the kids, homeschooling and going out. Today we went out into the mountains just briefly, a bit of exercise. So I'm enjoying it.
I'm taking a lot of bike rides, hanging around with a friend. I don't have a family myself, but it's nice to see the families together. You can tell they're getting to know each other.
Yeah, and
we have to see each other.
And we're in a good position as well, in that we're not depending on the next paycheck. So I know other people are struggling.
Yeah, one girl was saying to me that she really regrets she has to stay in the fruit shop and keep selling fruit, and she's got her 16-year-old daughter taking care of the younger kids, and she's got seven kids. So that must be tough on her.
And I've just
I don't know, I think people are relating, even though they're being forced to separate, and what's social distancing, that's the term, right? The new buzz term that they had ready. They had that term ready way before this started.
Didn't they? Yeah.
That's on on all of the marquees, on all of the major interstates, social distancing, save a life, stay home.
Yeah. When did they print all these placards? Did they just do it right now, after we invented the word social distancing?
Well, no, these are all electronic.
Jeez. I think it's ridiculous. Social distancing is terrible. So, we had an instance where nobody cared about the social distancing. I was checking out those military tents, and I came back through Ringsend, a small town, which is kind of like outlying on the sea, outside Dublin. And when I was going over the Ringsend Bridge, I saw a guy lying on the ground and some people around him, and his head had been cracked. He was pouring out blood, and So I looked closer and I didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm going to get coronavirus. I better run. It's like the zombie. I got to get away from him. I can't touch him. No, everyone was fine with him. We were wiping up his wound on his head, making sure he didn't have a concussion. We sat with him, and I kind of forgot about the whole corona thing, right? And then we started remembering, and we started passing around wipes. Hey, maybe we should look, like sterilize our hands or something, But everyone was more concerned that the guy did not have like an injury, a concussion.
How did he get hurt?
He just fell over, I think. He was slightly kind of mentally impaired and visually impaired as well. So he had a kind of simple way of talking. He wouldn't speak clearly, but he was nice. And he was walking his dog and he fell over. He wasn't drunk. I asked him, had you been down the pub? And I just sat there and kind of calmed him down and made him sit still because we didn't want him to be walking around with a concussion, basically. And then a guy came around. He was like a medic, and he had these little steri strips, and he dressed his wound. But all of this happened. Why? Because in the midst of all of this medical emergency, we couldn't get an ambulance. We were waiting and waiting and waiting for one ambulance to come. And it wasn't really far from the hospital either. It ended up that finally his phone rang and one of his relatives was on the other end, and we listened for who it was, and we told them about it, and they told someone else, and his nephew came and picked him up. So maybe I was exposed to coronavirus there too. I don't know.
Were you able to enjoy your dinner, Nora?
Which dinner tonight?
Yeah, the one that you made, or have you eaten it yet?
No, you totally interrupted my dinner.
Is anybody shedding a tear for Prince Charles?
Oh, that's strange that he...
What's the matter with Prince Charles?
He
tested.
He's got the dreaded coronavirus.
Does he?
Yeah, and he's not a spring chicken. He may have coughed on Prince Philip. It's probably obvious that I've got no time for that.
What do you think?
Sorry, go ahead.
Wouldn't it be really strange, like on top of all of this, if Prince Charles actually died, and they said it was dying of coronavirus.
And they can't be. They have to, the body at the moment is being cremated. The family doesn't get the body back, so there'd be no big procession of his funeral.
Right? It would be over 10 people of a gathering, wouldn't it be?
What a shame.
I don't think they're going to take it that way, though.
He might have coughed on the Queen.
That's right. So.
But lizards don't get a coronavirus.
So do you think this is the way they're going to put Prince William in? Like, they can have the Queen and Charles coughing on each other and then stick William in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so not too many people know you, Nora, so just introduce yourself a little bit to us and tell us.
Well, I'm NoOnesFlower on I'm NoOnesFlower on the chats and that. But everyone knows my name is Nora, even though it's NoOnesFlower.
Yeah, your YouTube is NoOnesFlower, all one word.
Yeah, I've just been an activist for a very long time, and I got more into this when the whole truth community just kind of migrated. All the most intelligent people found out the Earth was flat, and I stayed more. I was more active on YouTube after that, but I don't do any content really. I just study.
Have you been out doing your sidewalk art?
Oh yeah, I'm a street painter as well. That's true. I am a street painter. I haven't been. No, I couldn't do it now.
No,
I think yeah, I'll be a ruined street artist now, huh? Because I don't think you can do that now.
And you teach.
I don't know what
you teach music as well, don't you? Is it the piano you teach?
That's my profession. I'm I graduated as a piano teacher. Yeah. I did music and music composition in Trinity in Dublin. But I'm more interested in the truth, actually. Like I like these subjects.
When you do your sidewalk painting, what is it that you do? You just do it as inspiration takes you, or do you have something in mind when you set out?
I do it as desperation takes me. Not inspiration, desperation. It's like busking. You just go outside well, actually it's kind of if you're a painter, you spend a lot of time in your studio, you spend a lot of time alone and isolated, just like now. So it's nothing new to me, but one way to socialize is to take it to the streets. That's what a lot of buskers do. Like if they're practicing a lot at home, then they want a gig. They want to share their music and they want to go out and do. And if they don't get a gig, they'll busk. But also, it's a extra money, extra pocket money. Sometimes it's just socializing and fun.
And you're using the term bask, B-A-S-K.
Busk, B-U-S-K.
Busk. Okay.
Yeah. All the English people will know it as busking as well. I guess in what is it in America? Street music, street musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call street musicians buskers here.
Okay.
So, and part of that is chalkies and street painters. I do a lot of Caravaggio copies, Michelangelo copies. I do a lot of the classical artworks because I can do them, and it attracts a lot of people. People like it. It's art in the street. They don't have to go into a gallery to see it, and a lot of people will come around that wouldn't go to a gallery. So, it's just nice. It's nice to have art out in the street.
And is that in your mind, or do you have a template that you set out and you look at the template?
If I'm doing a picture by Michelangelo or Botticelli, surely I'm copying it. I'm not going to remember. Well, actually, I've actually remembered some of them because some of them I've done more than once. You can actually almost remember what some of the more famous paintings look like. But
do you ever,
I don't.
You alter them?
Usually just. Oh yeah, I've altered them. Yeah, I've had people ask me to alter them. There's a girl who does. It's called copia d'autore. That was very badly pronounced. In Italy, they do it as copia d'autore, and one very popular thing now to do with them is to take a famous painting, like Lady with an Ermine I forget who did that one. Is it Leonardo da Vinci? Anyway, like there's a picture of a lady with an ermine, one of these classical paintings, and then the person ordering the painting will want that done of themselves, and the ermine will be their cat. So you work little personalized elements into the paintings. That's kind of popular now. So you do change them. Quite a few people copy old artwork in the world. It's a strange niche that exists.
Yeah, that's Da Vinci. I just looked it up.
Yeah, things like that, and or you just like add one person's face, like the person who's paying for the painting will want their face in the painting. That goes on too. But I do some of my own work. I can do portraits. Are you trying to get some orders from me, Travis?
Sure, yeah. Are portraits pretty easy for you? Can you do a pretty good likeness of someone?
Oh yeah. I used to make my living as a portrait artist when I was a teenager. So I'm kind of good at it.
Yes, yeah. That's pretty amazing. I don't have that kind of conceptual ability. That to one of the games that my kids and I play, it's kind of like Pictionary. We have these cards, and it'll have these clues that you're supposed to then draw the clue, and then everybody tries to guess what it is and whatnot. But my kids are so much better at it than I am. I draw stick figures, and I just think I can't even draw like hands and arms. It's so funny. I've kept all of the papers that we've drawn on, and
and you have all these stick figures, really.
yeah, mine are horrible, and they've got these great cartoons. They're so much better.
I've taught art before. I bet I could teach you how to draw.
I'm sure. Well, when I was a kid, I used to draw. I used to draw a lot more when I was a kid, but now it's absolutely horrible.
Have you ever heard of this book by a lady called Betty Edwards, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain?
No.
She explored the psychology and kind of the brain, I don't know, like the neurology of drawing. And she described how I learned a lot about left brain and right brain from that book, because the left brain controls kind of how do I describe this? The left brain is more like orderly and step by step kind of thinking, and like a left brain person would follow a map through a city. And then a right brain person is more intuitive, and they go by feelings and kind of propriosensitivity, like the feeling of where they're situated in a place. So, and this is more a feminine aspect, whereas the left brain is typically a male aspect, but that's not necessarily always true. But so Betty Edwards wrote this book about drawing on the left side of the brain, or the drawing on the right side of the brain, to try to study where different kinds of drawing come from. And the more left-brained drawer, an artist who draws from the left side of the brain would be someone like a cartoonist. They have a stylized kind of point, by like a descriptive kind of drawing that doesn't just look realistic. Do you know what I mean? So when you draw your stick figure and you draw your happy face, say, right, you're actually drawing a code of a man's happy face. It's almost making hieroglyphics of that man's happy face. You got the two eyes, you got a circle, you got the little nose, maybe you want to add a nose, right? And you draw a smile, just like a curved line, but that's not what you see, is it, right? And if you draw a stick figure, you're drawing hands as little branches out of, like a stick, and, stick figures. That is making a code. That is a left brain way of describing something. A right brain way of describing a drawing of a man is when you actually just draw the shape and the color that you see. Exactly. Does that make sense? It's very hard to describe this, but here, do you understand that, Travis? Do you understand what I just said?
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
So, like, basically, there's two kinds of drawing. The right side of the brain drawing, which is just, you really feel the actual spaces that you're drawing. You're filling out what you see and what you feel in the colors and the lines and the shapes, right? And then there's a code of drawing, which is more cartoons, stick figures, right? So the people who think they can't draw are drawing from the left side of the brain.
Right.
And to teach them to draw, this is what Betty Edwards describes in this book. Oh God, I can't believe I'm talking about this complicated subject. You can teach somebody who draws like that, says, "Oh, I can't draw anything. I just draw stick figures," right? You can teach them by these exercises, which teach them how to take that drawing from the right side and to activate their right side of their brain for the drawing. And one way you can do this is to, for example, take like a magazine picture. You can say, here, draw this person in this magazine, right? So you have, like, say, a black and white picture of a model's face, right?
Yeah.
And you have the person draw that face, and they do it, and it probably look like a stick figure, probably look crap, and it doesn't look right, and then they get very, very disappointed, and they throw it down. They say, damn, I'm not doing this anymore, okay? But then you say, okay, stop. Now turn that upside down and draw the same face from upside down, right? And invariably, they always get it better. They always get it right. And that's because the brain is not giving the code face into the left side of the brain. For your left brain will say face, and you'll try to make that code face. But if you turn it upside down, you're not recognizing the face, so you're not thinking face. So you won't do code of the face, and then they just draw the spaces, they draw the lights and the darks, and they draw the lines, the relation of the shapes, and then they get a proper face.
And then that's supposed to be able to help them do it the right side up the next time?
Yeah, because they've shifted their the function of their brain that they're using to copy that picture.
Yeah.
So that's actually how I used to teach art, like Betty Edwards.
Very interesting.
So I bet I could teach you how to draw.
I'm sure you could try. Yeah. Mark,
And we'll all be doing lots of hobbies because we'll be stuck in our houses.
Yeah, I just ordered myself some old-fashioned traditional film and chemicals. Getting stuck into my dark room again. The magic of
that's great.
Yeah, the magic of photography when you use chemicals. You're not you're not looking at the back of your camera every time you shoot because there's no screen there. You just got a film and you take it home and then you stick it in some chemicals, and that's where the magic all happens.
That's lovely. Do you have the dark room all set up?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I haven't used it for about a year, so there's a lot of rubbish being sort of loaded in there. So I'll have to clear that out first. But yeah, we're all going to go.
Are you going to do black and white?
I've ordered some black and white stuff actually from Russia, some old Russian film. But last week I got a whole load of colour slide film as well. So the shooting colour's nice.
Nice.
So I'll be posting that on my Facebook page anyway.
Yeah, we're all going to get into our hobbies. What are you going to do, Travis?
Well, that depends on whether or not my business or the trucking company, if any of that business slows down, I'll have to start thinking about that. But as it is right now, I don't see it slowing down, so I don't know that I'm going to have that kind of time. But if I did, I suppose I would try to go through all of the footage that I've got that I haven't been able to go through. So.
Oh yeah, you must have a lot of ether band stuff that you haven't.
Everybody drink. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, they're really great. I love that stuff. That's it's wonderful. It's such a revelation. The ether band and all the reflection at the end of the view.
Yeah, regardless of the discussion that I've tried to garner with it, the beauty of the captures are I think just enough in and of themselves to be impressive.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a genre of photography.
Well, the one thing that I did, I put out a new video today, if you haven't seen it, and I'm going along the shoreline of the distant land on the Chesapeake, and there is this very subtle ghost of an image of a boat that comes across the screen, and it's just this faint little ghost, and I follow it the whole way, and then another boat comes in from behind it, and they both come into view more and more and more, so they develop from an apparition that you wouldn't know what it was until it's a full-blown boat. And
excellent.
It's just beautiful.
So they turn from the smudge, like Jim Panda. The smudge turns into the boat. So it's coming out of that band of where things get reflected.
Yep.
Lovely.
Well, folks, should we call it a night?
Yeah, we're just talking about our hobbies at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Great to talk to you all. Thanks for everybody that listened in.
anything else really big happens, let's have another one and talk about what's happening. Like if you see anything happening about Corona up there, or
Yeah.
I see it here.
Yeah, okay. I'm just stopping.
Yeah.
I'm just stopping the streaming.